In this exercise, you're going to learn how to prepare a slide, a microscope slide with bacteria in order to see the bacteria. So there's some things, regardless of what kind of a stain you're going to do, that you must do prior to adding the stain. And you have to add the stain in order to see the bacteria because they're so small, and without any stain, it's going to be colorless. You're not going to see anything. So you have to stain them in order to see them, but before you stain them, you have to do this kind of like the pre-staining steps or techniques. So the first thing you have to do is what we call a smear. We make a smear on the microscope slide. Literally what you're doing is you are taking the bacteria and you're putting them on that microscope slide so you can later see them. You don't want to introduce any contaminants into your original supply of bacteria, which is either going to be growing on a petri dish or in a tube or in a liquid broth. So that culture that you have, you don't want to add any additional contaminants to. So to do the smear, what you're going to first do, you want to use aseptic technique. So you're going to flame your inoculating loop. Once you have flamed it and it's cooled down enough, then you're going to open your test tube or your flask or the whatever container you have. Assuming that it's glass, you're going to flame the neck of the tube or the flask. Now, if you're working from a petri dish, you're going to lift the lid of the petri dish. You're going to take that sterile inoculating loop and touch the end of it into the broth, or if it's on a solid medium, you're just going to touch a colony. You're going to try to keep everything close, always working with sterile technique or aseptic technique as we call it. You're going to be working within 6 to 8 inches of that flame. So once you flame the loop, you open the tube, you flame the tube, you with the loop touch the end of the loop into the broth or on the solid medium. And remember, you have to let that loop cool first. So if you hear a sizzling noise, that means you just killed whatever you're touching, but you're going to end up killing it anyway, so you should be okay. Once you have touched your loop into the broth or on the colony, remove the loop, and then you're going to flame that tube or flame that flask. Close it. You're done with it now. Now the loop, which has bacteria on the end of it, so you need to be careful how you're handling it, where you're working with it. You take the loop and you literally just smear it on the microscope slide. And once you're done, then you flame the loop. Because remember, it has bacteria on it. You need to kill the remaining bacteria on it. So this slide is just showing a microscope slide here. Oftentimes we use a paper clip to help hold it. And with the end of the loop, you can see here, you're just smearing it, literally rubbing back and forth on the surface of the slide. So that is making a smear. Now, once you have the bacteria on that microscope slide, you need to what we call heat fix it. This is very easy to do. Why do you have to heat fix it? It's going to do 3 things. Number 1, it's going to kill the bacteria. It's killing that specimen. You just smeared it on there, but those were living cells, so you need to kill it. It's going to help stick the specimen to the slide so that it remains there during the staining process. It doesn't matter what stain you're adding. You don't want to add the stain and have it wash off, the bacteria wash off. So it's helping to stick, and most of this we're talking about with bacteria. It's going to stick it to the slide. It kills it. It also makes the cell wall a little more permeable to the stain. So in other words, the stain is able to penetrate into the cell, and you'll be able to see it a little bit easier. So how do you heat fix? You're going to take that slide. You've already done the smear on it. You just pass it through the flame 1, 2, 3 times. That's heat fixing it. Some places will tell you to let the sample, once you've done the smear, let it air dry first prior to heat fixing. Other places say, if you spread out that smear enough, if it's from a liquid broth, it's going to dry quickly anyway. Plus, when you pass it through the flame, it's going to dry. So some people say you need to let it air dry. Others say don't really worry about that. So that's kind of a personal choice. So smear the sample on the slide and then pass it right afterwards, and pass it through the flame. 1, 2, 3 passes, and you've heat fixed it. You notice that the slides, we do have that paper clip that's we use to hold it on one end. That just gives you a little bit more room, your hand's a little bit further away from the flame, so you don't take a chance of burning yourself when you go to heat fix it. From this point then, you move on and do whatever stain you need to perform.